Hello, my name is David Nichols, and this is my midterm project. And so for my midterm project, I chose to stick with the management system. Over here are all the files I created, and I'm going to go over the code first, and then I'll show you the UI. So the first thing I did was write the database creation in SQL. This was actually the first challenge I created for myself, because by writing in SQL, I then had to write this file in order to get it to be able to execute by Python, and actually is this file. So this just basically runs the file that I created over here in SQL. And so we're going to start off by running Python run db.py, and that actually runs our database and it creates it over here. And so the database is working, and in order to see what's inside of our database, just to make sure all our tables are created and are working, I then created this file that this basically queries everything. So let me run this python check db.py. There we go. And so we can see that the table or the database is fully created and all the tables are working. So after doing that, I then created an authentication system. So if I go over here to auth.py, you can see that I used hashlib and once again SQLite. And so hashlib basically just hashes the password. This creates the users and it adds it to the database. And so after doing that, it then makes sure that the password matches and that the user is in the database. And so the user I created is David, and then that's the password. So let's run this. And so over here we can see users registered and the login success equals true. And if I open up this PowerShell window real quick, I can show you that if I run this quick query, that the registered user is user ID 1, the username is David, and the password is actually hashed, which is successful. So that's a good security system right there. And so after creating that, I did the course management system. And so the first thing I did connected to the database, and then I then added the add student function. This adds a student. This adds a course, same kind of concept. And then this basically just lists all the student within a course, or lists all the students in the program. And then this lists all the courses. And then so these are the two students I have, Abraham Lincoln and George Washington, and they're going to be in these respective classes, Python programming, and then this is an actual class I'm taking. So let's run this. Sorry, I keep mistyping. New keyboard. There we go. So we can see down here that the courses are now registered and created, and then these students are now registered in those courses. And so I then created an attendance system. And let me go to the top of this file. And so basically this takes attendance. It'll mark students as absent or present. And then this will query and just basically set the status of them. And so it'll use their student IDs in order to keep track of them. And what we're going to do here is we're gonna make it so Abraham Lincoln is present and George Washington is absent. And then this is for later when we create the PDF file. So let's run Python attendance.py. All right, so over here we can see that students were marked as present in student ID 1, and then student ID 2 is marked absent. And then Abraham Lincoln is student ID 1, so he was marked present, and George Washington was student ID 2, so he was marked absent. All right, and then in order to display this in a PDF file, I use Report Lab. And so I imported the canvas from that. This basically queries all the information that we need, and then this creates a PDF file with all the formatting that we needed. And then this formats the strings that we need. So let me run this. And then over here, so we can see the PDF files are created, and now that we look at it, we have the same information that was displayed up here. So that's good. All right, moving on, I then created the graph system. So I'm gonna go over the code and then I'll show you the graphs and the UI. So I used MATLib to create the graphs. First thing I did, queried all the information that we're going to need, and then set the rows and table or rows and values. And so then the first graph I'm going to use is this bar chart, and it's going to show the attendance status, and then the attendance or the number of students who are absent, the number of students who are present. And then the pie chart does the same exact thing, but in a pie chart format. So in order to view all of this, let me go back down here, and we're going to go to the UI. And the UI was created using Tinker, and this is the code for it. So then the first thing it's going to display is the login. The second thing is the home page, which will have buttons to all the other pages of our pie pages. And then we have an add student view, we have an add course view, a take attendance view, and an attendance button just to see the attendance charts and graphs. So let's do this. Let's do Python UI.py. All right, so this is the first window that we have that pops up. And so if we remember from earlier, the first user is David. And then actually, I forgot to mention this. Down here, I have this, which just basically toggles show password because I kept mistyping password wrong for a while there. And that's a good example of what happens when you accidentally mistype the password. It's because I had a capitalized P. And then this is the sign of success. So we were now in. And then this was the view I was talking about that shows the home page of all the buttons. So we can generate our report, which we already did, but we're going to actually skip right here to show attendance. And now this was the first graph we had. So basically, because we have one student in attendance, we have one student. And then because we have, or this was the present side, because we have one student in attendance, which is Abraham Lincoln, we have one. And then because we have one student absent, that's why both graphs are even. And if I close this, it then shows the pie chart. So 50% of our students are present and 50% of our students are absent. And so, moving on to discuss the challenges I had, a lot of the challenges I had was actually getting this database to work that I mentioned earlier. Another thing was for the PDF was actually this formatting. And then moving on to the question after that is what was AI very helpful with? So AI was actually very helpful with getting the formatting done for this and for the if we go to the UI, for the UI, that was great. And then one thing I found that AI is really good for is if you ever get an error code, if you copy or paste the error code into the chat GPT, it will help you figure out what was going on. So for the final portion of the project, I'm supposed to grade myself based off this criteria. So I chose the management system, so that's 5%. The login system works, and I was able to get the database to work. The course management system, I can show you that here. I'm able to add a course if I click on it. Sorry, my computer is really slow when I'm recording. There we go. And so you can see I can add a course by name, course name, description, and course number. So I'm just going to add a course, just a bunch of numbers and a bunch of numbers and or a bunch of letters. And then this is a bunch of numbers. And then I'll add this and it'll add it to the database. It was added successfully. And then moving on, student records, I'm able to create and manage records, which we saw earlier with the PDF. I'm also able to assign students to classes, which we saw earlier with Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. I'm able to track attendance, and I'm also able to generate reports. So if I just click this button, it says generate report. And then if I go over here back to the code, we can see in the terminal here that it says report saved successfully. Let me bring back the criteria. And then the data visualization, once again, I'm able to bring up the graphs. And then finally, code documentation. I like to believe that my code is documented very well. I basically left a documentation for every full or every document here, and then I also have every function listed. And then additional functionality, I would say the UI is pretty good. I added a show password feature because I kept messing up. I like to think I had a creative integration by initially writing the database in SQL. And additional functionalities, I wouldn't say there's very much, but I like the UI system, and the login system is hashed properly. So overall, if I was to give myself a grade, I would give myself a 95%. Thank you.